Chinese buyers are flooding back to Australia's property market. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au discussing Chinese buyers apparently flooding back into the Australian property market, or poised to, as our property prices fall due to the pandemic. Now, apparently, there's still FOMO out there that we're hearing every other day. That, if it falls, it'll only fall a little bit. It'll only fall, 10% or 20%. You can afford a 20%. Get that loan now. Quick, get in there. First home buyer now. Quick. Now, is this another piece, perhaps, created to, engender more FOMO in a younger generation? Or is it a reflection of what's actually happening, everyone? What we'll do is we'll jump over here to, this is a table I made in a previous video looking at data from the Foreign Investment Review Board and just the number of approvals, because they have to approve investment by foreigners, people from foreign countries. And you can see here, because all the media was saying, why is everyone worried about China? They're, number 5 on the list at 13 billion. America's much higher. Particularly the CEC, they love to repeat that. But over here, the number that I consider more important and more significant and probably having a greater impact on the average Aussie is the number of approvals, over 4,900. And that's down, everyone. That is down on the last data. You can see here they make up 51% of the number of approvals. And this is mainlanders. Mainland Chinese. And if we go back to this chart, this is an older chart, but it demonstrates quite clearly. This is an overlay. And if you've watched my channel, you've seen this many times before, but it shows you in the black line the number of building approvals. And the other two bar graphs below show Foreign Investment Review Board approved investments for established housing and for new housing. Look at that surge. That black line nearly hit 100% of building approvals back when we had a property boom. And we have our property prices over time. They're reflecting that. It's simple market economics. Now, I honestly can't blame people wanting to move to Australia. All of my European family want to come over here. Depending on what city you go to. I don't know why they're rushing to Melbourne, though, but Queensland's bloody beautiful weather. Beautiful weather. Maybe that's just my own bias as an ex-Victorian moving up here. But nevertheless, the fact that this number is so high and their highest investment here is in real estate, one would argue that there's the potential, or it seems to be, that you're getting a larger number of smaller investments. Rather than huge, big investments, you're getting thousands of people investing in a property, and that's going to affect our property market. And, well, if our property is going to take a hit, there are going to be foreign investors flooding back into China to snap up Australian properties. The Victorian Parliament, they're pushing for this. They're hoping it will spur on their states. And here's the issue. Because it will drive up property prices again, everyone. It will drive up property prices. It will destroy housing affordability even more. Because wages, I know, we love our wage growth chart here from the RBA. They've failed to predict it many, many times. Does anyone expect wages to grow during an extended recession? I don't think that's how it works. So, what are the solutions? Let's have a look through this. What solutions do you think the government are calling? Will they enact a restriction on foreign investment into property? Should they enact it? What do you think, guys? Let me know your opinions in the comments. But I'd argue our states are addicted to the drug of stamp duty. Perhaps they've got a conflict of interest. So Chinese buyers are rushing back into the Australian property market as prices fall and the Australian dollar takes a beating due to the pandemic, industry experts say. Well, yes, I'll just bring up a chart, guys, so we can have a look at the Australian dollar right now. And Because that's another consideration, guys, the dollar dropping. Well, there you go. Hang on. Ooh, ASX is down 1%. I hadn't seen that. The dollar is at 64 cents. So, for those of us that have been watching it closely, you know, it's doing a lot better than it was. Remember when it was under 60 cents. So it's climbed back up again. But from its December high of 70 to its January at 69, yeah, that's a decent discount. Instantly, all the properties discounted. Yeah, nearly 10%. And then you get a price fall. So prices have fallen by around 10% since the start of the crisis in some places, with some predicting falls of up to 30% as unemployment rises into double digits for the first time in decades. And remember, this is based on the ABS data, everyone. It's based on the ABS data. Roy Morgan's already saying that what I like to combine the unemployment and underemployment is sitting at 25%. A lot of the mainland Chinese are seeing this as an opportunity to exploit a great deal, because that's what they're going to see in the property market in the next 6 months. Real estate industry advisor Robert Clarick told Nine's A Current Affair. What we'll see is the wealthy mainland Chinese will look towards Australia now to secure their wealth and secure their health. He added, they have a lifestyle here, they have freedom, and they can protect their wealth from the CCP. Can anyone argue with that? To an extent they can. But can anyone argue with that? The lifestyle here is pretty good, guys. I know we've got all our greenies saying, oh, the environment's dying here in Australia, which is utter rubbish. It's bloody clean, the air is fresh. And most of the things we complain about here in Australia are first world problems. Most of them are first world problems. We've got it pretty good. Sure, we've got some premiers are more excited at the prospect of having authoritarian police state powers than others. But still, compared to other nations, we're pretty lucky here. Property prices and consumer sentiment have been affected by the pandemic, particularly in major cities like Melbourne and Sydney, where demand is driven by overseas investment. We'll have a look here. I'll bring up consumer sentiment, guys. You can just see how that has plunged. That has plunged. And then the other figure I like to refer to is business confidence. That's also taken a huge hit in business conditions. So they're arguing here that demand in Sydney and Melbourne, which is driven by overseas investment, will it continue? Will it continue? But then how many wealthy Chinese do you have? Or have we already seen that? And will this play through to the entire market? Will they still be buying investment properties everywhere when international student numbers are down, when tourism is down? Or will they just be focusing on the upper quartile of the property sector? That's the consideration, guys. Because one thing to remember, price growth isn't universal. This is a chart showing unit price growth in Sydney, and you can see the big difference there. So, however, some, such as investment expert Richard Shepherd, believe prices in areas like Sydney won't go any lower. George Shamil, the Chinese property portal Jiawei, said inquiries from Chinese buyers only dipped 14% in the first quarter, compared with 40% for local buyers. China is back in business much earlier than the rest of the world, he told the program. They're basing this all on search data. It could be that are local buyers going there as often? He said Chinese demand had remained strong for a number of reasons, including Australia's successfully handling of the pandemic. Australia is very attractive for students, investors and retirees. And also the Australian property market is very resilient, he said. Well, we haven't really had a recession in living memory. I'm sure, okay, it is technically it's living memory, but it's over nearly 30 years ago, guys. How old were you for the young blokes watching the channel? You know, my age, approaching middle age. How old were you then? Yeah, I can't even remember. Probably 8. I was during the last recession, and I remember work. My father's building and drafting company, it just dried up really quick. Really quick. I think that's around the time they decided for us to move from Victoria up to Queensland. So we'll see how the claims of our resilient property market. Well, we'll see how they hold up in 6 months' time. Chinese buyers like Australian real estate, especially over UK and US real estate, given the pandemic crisis has hit the UK and US much stronger. He added that the battered Australian dollar was also a factor. Well, there you go. The Australian dollar is down 10% against some of the currencies. So that's a nice buffer which people can include in their budgets, he said. Exactly, just as I've told you. They can't get enough of it. Clean air, clean food, great education, safe environment. It's paradise for them, he said. Well, okay, you know, that's his business. He's pushing it. Do you think our education is great? I've heard mixed. Well, all the data I've seen, our education is going down. And I've heard some pretty good things about the Chinese education. It's a bit more authoritarian than ours. But their results are a little bit better. His wife, Lulu Pallier, agreed. There's always demand and the Chinese people will always like Australia, she said. Well, I think a lot of people will always like Australia because they're right. Our air is clean, the food is clean, we've got a safe environment. Sure, okay, education is free. I see it with my own family. You know, living in beautiful parts of Europe, wanting to retire here in Australia. The weather's one thing. It could just be, you know, Queensland. Queensland's awesome, guys. Melbourne's bloody cold. It can be 40 degrees one day and then 10 the next. It actually snowed when I was living down there one day. It was just insane. Insane. So there you go, everyone. There you go. Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Should the states intervene, or should the federal government intervene with the Foreign Investment Review Board to perhaps restrict this? Or do you think it will just be some opportunistic people that will come in and won't make a significant impact on property? Or is this going to be more FOMO just to get those first home buyers to jump in now? Because, guys, if we're going to have a recession, do you think China's going to have one too? We'll have to see. As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you want to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay, or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, buy our merch from the HeiseSays blog, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next video.